Can we go ahead and get started then? Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Team 4112's Building Outreach for Beginners session. So before we get started, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Prisha Mapgil. I am the Outreach Director of Team 4112. This is my third year of FRC, and I'm a senior this year.
So, hi everybody, my name is Namya Patel. I am the sponsorship lead. I'm a sophomore, and this is my second year of FRC.
So before we begin the session itself, we want to give you a little background about our team. So we're Team 4112, as you guys know, and we've been around for about 14 years now, but the team wasn't structured the way it always was. As of 2021, we had no outreach business department. The only department we had were technical, and the only impact presentation we ever did was in 2017, and it really wasn't by any type of business people. It was all technical people. Then we won the Industrial Design Award in 2019, and the last time we went to DCMP was in 2019 as well. So we've been around for a while, but the Business and Outreach Department is relatively new, and we've thus made a lot of progress and want to share our story with you guys as well.
So, since 2023, we've won numerous awards that are related to our outreach. So, the first one being Excellence in Engineering, which was awarded for demonstrating a strong understanding of the engineering design process. Next up was Team Sustainability, which was awarded for demonstrating a viable plan of future growth. And finally, Engineering Inspiration, or EI, which is awarded for having passion for spreading STEM and increasing the inclusion and accessibility of STEM in our community. We won this twice at DCMP, and that's why we went to Worlds.
So on the agenda for today, we have three main things that we're going to cover. We're going to cover our outreach, we're going to cover awards, and we're going to cover team organization. So the first thing we're going to get started with is outreach. So when it comes to outreach, one of the biggest things you need to remember is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You have many resources available to you and that you need to play to your strengths. A lot of times when people look for sponsorships or any mentor help, they kind of look over what they have right in front of them. And that is actually one of the biggest ways that you can actually get help. So with contacts, you can contact companies or nonprofits in your local area. Many times they have an existing sponsorship fund that could help you, and it's in your local community itself. So it's a great benefit that way as well. Parents and teachers. There's most FRC teams have about 30, 40, 50 members, and each set of parents is in a different profession field, and they have different experiences and strengths, and they have their own contacts as well. So if you have, every member on your team, just ask their parents or ask your teachers, because all of these have, very different contacts, and they could help you bring in whatever help you need. And of course, family, friends. This whole group of people, is in your realm, and they have many different contacts for you to be able to get resources from. So they're all a great way to contact, a great way to get like help or mentorship or whatever you're looking for from. Experiences. You need to think of what your members are involved in, whether you're thinking of starting new initiatives, whether you're thinking of what your members are good at. Just have that in mind. And then, of course, your environment. Look at your school or community. Do they have any resources for you to be able to help you? look at your region and any events ongoing around you. Again, you don't have to completely remake everything from scratch. A lot of times, FRC events, you can, tag along with existing people, partner up with other clubs, and just look at what's happening around you to make an even bigger and more impactful event.
So when it comes to actually structuring and creating your outreach programs, there are three things that you'd want to think of first. So first, it's to sustain any outreach programs you already have and want to keep running. So these would be the ones that have a strong impact and actually just work really well with your community. Next up would be to expand. So these are the programs that you already have, but want to improve so that they can reach your desired impact. To do this, maybe research your community and see what's needed so that you can expand and improve your programs to match what's needed. And finally, create. You can take inspiration from programs in your community. And like it was just said, it doesn't have to be completely from scratch. A lot of these things you can find already in your community. And also be sure to actually research your community, see what gaps actually need to be filled so that you can have the most impact. So next up, let's just go over types of outreach. So first off, we've got generics. So these would be your important programs that are common in most FRC teams. These are a great place to begin to build your outreach if you don't already have some programs. So examples of these could be just mentoring FLL, FDC, and VEX teams to help them grow, or showcase events where you just showcase your teams to other schools, your own school, or just at events in your community. And finally, just simple volunteer. But you do want to make sure that your generic events aren't your number one outreach program because it's not what's preferred. Now, what is preferred is to have specialties. These are the programs that make your team unique and stand out in a competition. These are the initiatives that judges actually look for when it comes to choosing teams for awards. So an example of this would be Team 321, which has the Philadelphia Robotics Coalition, which addresses disparities and the lack of access to robotics programs in public schools in Philadelphia, and Team 118's EagleBot, which is a starter bot for new teams. Now, our team's unique initiatives have helped us win EI twice and allowed us to go to Worlds. So having specialties is definitely incredibly important if you want to have good.
So another thing to think about when you're looking at outreach events is your level of scope. And what do I mean by level of scope? I mean a number of different things. The first thing is obviously your level of reach. How far do you think you're going to reach with whatever outreach initiative that you're going to have? Do you think you want to go local, national, or international? Which audience is going to best suit your needs? And what kind of impact are you looking to create? For example, if you're looking at maybe beginner level outreach, maybe it's your first outreach ever, you probably wouldn't want to go international for that. You probably want to look more into your local community and see how you can get involved with people from, that are already in close proximity to you. Whether maybe if it's your, fourth, fifth outreach and you're thinking about how can I make an impact outside of my own community, you can start looking at national and international and getting more participants from that way. And then speaking from participants, you got to look at your audience. Who are you helping? Many times, when you have an outreach event, it's specifically suited to one group of people. Maybe you're having a workshop that's meant for younger kids. Maybe you're, you know, you have an initiative that's going to help underrepresented people or underprivileged people. Or maybe, you just have an initiative that's just STEM based and anyone can, come. So when you're trying to market your idea and spread it across to whatever like level of reach you have, you need to have a clear audience of who exactly your audience is. And then based on that, you can properly market your idea wherever you're doing it. Make sure people know what you're doing and why, it's specifically suited to that particular audience. And then lastly, you got to look at your impact. How long will your impact last? Do you think that your, whatever outreach initiative you're doing is going to be better in the short term versus long term? And which factors, are going to affect that? When you look at short term, if you have an outreach initiative in the short term, how many people is it going to affect versus the long term? Should you keep the initiative short term versus long term? And how do you know when to let go of initiative? These are all things we're going to cover as well, like later on. But these are also great things to think about when you have an initiative and you're thinking about whether you want to continue doing something or you want to continue doing something into the long run, or if you have something that's just going to last maybe a couple of months or something, and then you want to eventually let go. So another thing is that we have when outreach initiatives is contacts and cooperation. So as I said before, a lot of times these contacts and professionals that you want to have like when you want to interact with are oftentimes in your local community. And again, like I said, they're often the most overlooked. So when you're thinking about it, you want to contact, like I said before, local companies in your community, contact professionals in that you know. The biggest way you can contact these professionals is to get mentor support. A lot of times the electrical like engineering or maybe like local computer science, something like that, companies in your community will help you, provide you with mentor support, and that can really help you when you're looking to build your bot or even have outreach initiatives. And then, like I said before, parents are the biggest thing when it comes to this. They have life experience and they have various different connections. Again, if you have like at least 30 kids on your team, that's like 30 sets of different parents with all with different sets of ideas and connections, and they can really help you expand your outreach initiatives. And again, your school and district, look into feeder schools, elementary and middle, and which of these would best help you with your initiatives. And also look at other clubs willing to collaborate. Like I said before, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to come up with a unique initiative every single time. While it can be good, it's not necessary. And oftentimes, collaboration is the biggest key to success. When you have multiple groups all coming together, it usually ends up in a bigger, more impactful result. And that's definitely something to look into. And as always, contact other FRC teams. Maybe you liked one of their outreach ideas and you want to learn more about it. Or maybe you just want to, contact with them and come up with your own idea together. Whatever it may be, FRC teams know other FRC teams best, and you don't always have to look at each other as, competitors in an event per se. At the end of the day, you're all trying to do the same thing, and sometimes you have the same goals. So also definitely it's a great thing to look into to contact other teams.
So far we've discussed how to create new initiatives. So now let's take a look at examining your current ones. So at least once a year, assess all of your initiatives and ask yourself a few things. Can you still grow and improve it so that it can have a bigger impact and just be wider ranged? Is it still having the same desired effect or just the effect that it once had? And is it really worth the resources that you're still spending on it? If all of those answers are no, consider orphaning the initiative because there's no point in beating a dead horse. If it's not going to grow, no matter how much time you put behind it, or if you just don't have time to put behind it, don't waste resources on it. It's going to be a waste of money and the time of your team members. Now, if you do really like the initiative that just isn't having the effect, consider redesigning it. Try to improve it so that it can have the same effect that it once had, or just have a completely new effect on your community.
So before we move on, we wanted to ask if there's any questions so far that you guys may have. Um, think the Q&A box should be open for you guys to put your questions in if you have any. So we'll wait 1 or 2 minutes before we move on if anyone has any questions. Okay, last call. Oh, is anyone raising their hand?
This is Dwayne from Team 8080. I'm their head coach, and I just had a couple questions for you about like organization. I know you talk about outreach specifically. How do you guys typically run those? Are those generally student ran with mentor oversight, or do you guys kind of break up initiatives across the teams? How do you kind of how do you handle them from a workload kind of perspective?
That's a really great question. Our team specifically, most of our initiatives are student ran. Like within our business and outreach sub teams, usually the directors such as me and my co-business director, we assign tasks to our respective sub teams, and we look over them, and it's mainly all student ran. We organize we book the whole event venue, we market it to the community, and then actually like let's say we have like a workshop or something, we actually go to the workshop and sit with the kids and organize the whole thing. We do have some mentor insight, like obviously with these events usually a mentor is required to attend, but most of the actual planning and organizing is done by students. And the best way to do that is if you give just a team of students on your team an outreach initiative, they probably won't know what to do. You need to have some level of hierarchy to be able to do this. And in our team, the way we do that is we have the directors on our team, you know, go around and make sure that the actual members and leads on our team are actually fulfilling their duties. And most times the student run way is the best way to go. But if you are relatively new into outreach and you don't have that level of hierarchy yet, then a mentor or coach can obviously help you. But over time, student ran is probably the way to go, with obviously a little bit of help from your mentors as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. I have one follow-up. Do you guys have like a strategy that you help as guidelines, like the different things that they need to think about? And then also after those events, do you like after action reports to figure out like what was the value they're looking for achieved? What are some lessons learned to kind of carry forward to other events? Um, for the smaller teams that don't have a large, number of captains or leads, do you guys pass that on to maybe some of your newer members or just the members and give them that opportunity to kind of step up and lead?
Sorry, can you
I know
repeat
that's a
the
lot of
beginning
questions.
part of the question again? I think you cut off in the beginning.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm driving. What I was asking, do you guys put together like a template for a plan or for a strategy for each of those events so that they understand what they need to kind of prepare for, and what like timelines look like? Like if you're going to put together an event, you need to make sure if you're reaching out to the community that you give them, I don't know, 2 months in advance notice or something like that, right?
Yeah, so with timeline, usually whenever we plan an outreach event, we look at maybe 2 to 3 weeks in advance. And when we're talking about strategy, I don't think per se we have like a formal like template or guideline that we abide to. Usually what we do is we come together as a team and we just look at all the different things that need to be done and allocate them effectively and periodically check on each other like, oh, have you created the flyer that needs to be sent out yet? Or oh, have you booked the event venue? Or have you created the sign up form? And it's it's mainly like a whole circle. Like there's no like linear timeline that we go by. It's a circle. We loop back whenever we need to. And when it really just depends on the type of outreach event that you're doing. Most times you will be in a circular like rotation because you'll look at you're going through the stages and you see, oh wait, I forgot to do this, and you have to loop back around, and it just really depends. But yeah, it's you could you could do it either ways. That's just how our team does it. So okay, does anyone have any other questions, or should we go on to the rest of the presentation? Okay, I guess we'll move on then. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is awards. And when it comes to awards, it's the main way that as y'all probably know that we gain awards is through presenting to judges. And this is one thing that, completely happens in spot, and you're kind of in charge of how you go about presenting these awards. So a few things to keep in mind is how, what, and why. How do you present? What are you presenting? And why are you presenting what you present? So let's talk about the first one, professionalism versus personality. There, when you're talking to judges, you want to be able to relate to them. They go through so many different teams a day. They don't want someone who is just standing there like a robot and giving them all of this pre-scripted information in their head. That's not going to give them anything. They want to know more about your team and to some extent you and your experiences on the team. So while there is some level of professionalism involved, make sure to have a little bit of personality in there as well. When you're talking at a judge, talking with a judge, make sure, you look at them eye to eye. If they ask you any questions, make sure you respond with not like a auto-generated answer that's in your head. Make sure you actually relate it to, the context of your team and, you know, look at it like in like the broader scope of things. But then there's also a little like a thin line between professionalism versus not. Like if let's say you're a very humorous person at heart, when you're talking to judges, you could like crack a few jokes and have a good time with them. But then also make sure that you don't get too carried away within that. There is still a level of professionalism that you should carry, but at the same time, don't just stand there like a robot and auto generate answers. Make sure you look, human and give out your own experiences as well, because that's what judges really care about. You, not, some scripted answer in your head already. And then what you present when your team, when you're looking at outreach initiatives, and let's say you have multiple, which ones do you want to focus on? When judges go around, they're you want to be able to make sure that you know what you want to emphasize to them. Which initiatives do you think are going to, you know, which ones do you want to make sure stand out from your perspective? And then how do you want to format or classify your outreach? So we'll show you a couple of examples later of how we've structured some of our like stats and things when we present to judges. But that's another thing to think about of how you want to show off what you've done. What do you want to emphasize? And then when you're thinking about that, you can come together and make, if you want, like handouts or presentation or anything that you want to give to judges. And then also, like I said before, why you conducted the outreach. Like when you're talking to judges, make sure you have that personal connection or that drive factor that you talk about. If you when the judges are asking you questions, don't just relate it back. Like, don't just give an answer that's, oh, we did it because we're looking at stats or something. Make sure you have a personal connection. Why do you want to spread STEM or whatever you're spreading? And you know, have that drive factor in there to include.
So when it comes to stats, stats are arguably one of the most important things that you can have when it comes to winning awards, but how you present them is also just as important. So when it comes to talking about them, be sure to emphasize your numbers. And they don't have to actually be big to show an impact. So for example, you can say that you had 2 new initiatives. Though 2 isn't a huge number, having 2 new initiatives and emphasizing the 2 is obviously a big thing. And next up, before mentioning your stats, consider reformatting them so that they show more impact. So, for example, instead of saying that you made 1 new Instagram post, consider saying that you reached 500 new followers. Because though they mean the same thing, have the same meaning, one seems like it has more impact than the other. However, when you do this, it's also really important to make sure that you don't lie, because lying is the type of stuff that will get you disqualified when it comes to trying to win awards. So just be sure not to lie when you reformat. And the last thing to really make sure is that not everything actually needs to be quantified. Numbers can and will devalue the impact of things. So, for example, say you had an event and you didn't have a lot of people come to it, but since not a lot of people came to it, you were able to spend a lot of one-on-one time with people who did come. Instead of saying that not a lot of people came in your staff, which would devalue the impact of it, consider saying or just talking about the impact that it had on people that actually came, because they are basically well, not the same thing, but talking about the impact is also very important when it comes to awards. And if we take a look at the next slide, it builds off the last one. In the first flyer, you can see that it is primarily numbers. There's just a title of the initiatives, a brief description of what they are, but it really emphasizes the numbers here. And these are the type of flyers or both of these, you can hold them while you're presenting to judges at your pit, and you wouldn't read off of them, but they're there to provide something for the judges to look at and a way to display your information. But also, it's important when you look at the next one to also just have descriptions. So for this one, you can see that there aren't a lot of numbers. The only sense of numbers are right here, and they are in bullet points. But another thing is that it also goes over the impact. So it's important to keep it concise. You don't want to write too much on one flyer because then it defeats the point of a flyer. You're supposed to, when you're presenting, you want to have it as a background, but you also just want to talk. So where it has the bullet points here, these are great points to build off of, but you don't want to read them. You want to look at them and then continue off of it.
So another thing we're going to look at is focus on core values. And before we do that, I think actually, all right, you want to go?
So first core value, which is public speaking. When it comes to public speaking, for some people, it comes naturally and it's just something that they like to do. But for others, it can be pretty hard. But I guess the main thing to really remember is that practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the easier and more natural it'll become for you. So when you're starting out, and if you're just not that good in general, some ways to improve are to first off just know your information well. Knowing your information by heart can help you prevent stuttering, and though it's fine, more importantly, you can prevent forgetting what you want to say. So just knowing your information is really important. And another thing is just slow down your speech. Speaking fast can make it hard for you to remember what you want to say and just speak in general. So speak slowly and clearly. This will help you convey information a lot better and it'll keep you calmer. And take a pause between questions to think about your answers. There's no need to jump directly into an answer right after you've heard the question without having time to think about it. Next up is eye contact. This can be hard for a lot of people. So just remember, scan the room, don't look at one person or thing, because prolonged eye contact tends to be something that many people struggle with, and it can make them nervous. So instead of just looking at someone or something, just scan the room. It also looks good when you're talking to judges to make sure that you're actually talking to them and not focused on one thing. And last up, it's just have some water with you. And just in case your throat gets dry, you can have some water to take a like you can have some water to moisten your throat and just help you speak better. And for some people, it can help calm them down.
Okay, so before we go into our last stage, which is organization, does anyone have any other questions about what we just covered? Going once, going twice. Okay, I guess we'll just move on and then we'll have another final round of questions at the end. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to look at is, one sec, is organization. As Nanya said, have water with you when you're talking. It really helps. Okay, so when you're looking at outreach initiatives, one of the main things that you want to look at is time management and scheduling. So oftentimes when you're working with, a large group of people within your team, it can be hard to come together and fulfill common goals and just get everything done. So one of the main ways that you can avoid this is that document every deadline that you place. When you have multiple things within a project that you need to get done, make sure that you split it apart into multiple different steps and then as a whole collectively decide on different deadlines that you want to reach. So if you have, for example, a 3-week time period that you need to get an outreach event done in, make sure you put in like 3 or 4 deadlines between there in which everyone in the team completes whatever goal they're assigned and then come together and then work with everyone at the end. Outreach often requires a lot of manpower. It's not a one-man job. um Oftentimes you're gonna have 5, 10, 15 people coming together and helping you with your outreach event. So make sure that you're prepared for that beforehand. And then it's kind of funny, bribing with service hours. A lot of times, even when we do outreach initiatives, when we are looking for volunteers or anyone to come help set up the event, we give them volunteer hours for coming in and doing whatever we need them with. So oftentimes that's the best way to get people to come and they get experience being within our outreach initiative and also just get experience interacting with other people or you know teaching other kids, and it's a great way to bring together the whole team and have a common mission, because oftentimes the business and outreach people work on the outreach initiatives, but then if you have a technical sub team, maybe they don't know what's going on. But then when you give out the thing that, oh, you'll get service operators for coming in and helping with us, that'll oftentimes bridge the gap between the two and get everyone involved with it. And then lastly, like I said before, make sure that you know which initiatives you want to focus on. Not everything you do can be given the same amount of priority. If you have a set number of resources, if and a couple different outreach initiatives, you don't necessarily need to split the pool of resources up in equally. If you have something that you think is going to give you potential or much more like success in the future, maybe you want to focus a bit more on that. And then, like Namia said before, if you have an initiative that isn't going the way you originally thought it was, or just isn't worth continuing, make sure you know when to let that go and instead focus on other things that'll actually give you more success in the future.
So now it's just more on time management for your actual awards. So awards like Impact have a lot of parts. They have long essays, short essays, documentations, presentations, and an optional video. And although for some, it may not seem like much, given the amount of time that you have, proper planning and just not getting things done can lead to it just not being completed on time or just building up till the very end. So ways to combat that are to set deadlines and address your responsibilities in advance. So you know what needs to be done and when. It's helpful for you and your entire team so that everybody can come to work and work together to get stuff done quickly. And a very important thing is to set aside time for editing. As a person who writes, I know that editing is crucial. As though something you wrote may make sense to you and may seem flawless and perfect to you, it may not to an outsider being a judge. So it's important to have your work, your writing, and just work in general, seen, read, and edited by a team or just another person so that you can improve its quality and help create the best version and just bring out what you really want to say.
So another very important thing that we have is documentation. And speaking from personal experience, a lack of documentation can be very hard to work with in the future. Like I said before 2021, our team did not have a business or outreach department at all. After COVID, we had to basically completely restart whatever we were doing. And lack of documentation was really not the best way to go about this. So after that, our team as well has done a really good job of documenting, and it's a great practice. It's a great habit to get into, and you can do this through multiple ways. You can make handouts, or you can, the best way to do this is depending on your needs, it's going to be different. But the way we do it sometimes is you make handouts. You can have it doesn't even need to be that long. Just make sure that you emphasize your focus points, and um, you make multiple copies that you'll be able to distribute to everyone in the future. Oftentimes the best way to go about this is to have short handouts with quick reads, like Nami was showing you the previous handout that we had. It just, when you look at it, you can automatically see, the buzzwords like, oh, we've reached this many people. This is what we've done. Have the main points in there so that you don't need to write, a 5-page essay to get your point through. You can just have one short, sweet little handout that will give you all the stats and all the main initiatives that you've done. And then with backing, make sure that you can show what you've done and not only talk about it. Like, but you could do that through including pictures. You could do that through including, you know, participant feedback, anything. Just make sure that you have more than just words in there, because oftentimes another form of media will help you later on when you're referring back to it. And like I said before, this doesn't need to be, really, really long. As long as you get the point across and just make sure that the people after you who will be looking at it have a general idea of what you did, it should be good to go.
And finally, building off of documentation, be sure to aim for sustainability. Make sure your team is self-sufficient. Make sure you're not overly reliant on one specific initiative or program, as being centered on one thing can lead to other ones maybe just not being ready to take over and diversify pressure if the main program fails or has to stop for some reason. And obviously that goes into being balanced. Make sure you spend an equal amount of time on your initiatives that you see potential growth and value in. And like it was mentioned earlier, if it doesn't have the same effect or if it's just not worth it, let it go and spend time on the one that actually matters, that you can stay balanced in your pool of working initiatives. And second up, very important, third up, more important, transferring responsibility and knowledge. This is very important, and it can also be done fairly simply. You can do it just by training new members to take over in the future and through what we went over, documentation, so that future members know what to do or how to solve a problem that may come up and when they have no one else to ask. And if you're conducting, say, a short-term program, consider the long-term effects of it. Like, what is it doing in the long term compared to just in the short term? As showing the long-term effect is key, and it's just a major part of many awards, such as Impact and DI. So overall, just start small with your initiatives, generics, and grow your programs as your outreach grows itself and build a positive impact on your community.
So in our building outreach for beginner session, the main things that we've covered are outreach, awards, and organization. Just like Bob the builder, you got to build up your initiatives one brick at a time. You can't build the whole building at once, just like you can't build a whole outreach or the whole initiative all together. Each step is strong and it leads to more growth, and it's make sure that you don't skip any steps, because in the long run skipping a step will probably hurt you, and each step is vital for success that you desire and the impacts that is going to inspire others. Before we get into questions, if you have anything that comes up after this event or just want a way to contact us, this is our email on the slide, eaglebots4112@gmail.com. You can also contact us through Instagram. There's our handle over there, and it'll be a great way to keep in touch, or if you guys just want to say hi or something. So that concludes our presentation. We're going to do one final round of questions if anyone has any. Last call for any questions. Okay, so if there's no questions, that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you tuning in this morning to learn a little bit more about outreach, and we have a great rest of your day. Bye. Also, Namia, can you go back to the first slide for a minute? Okay, thanks.